The African Union has agreed to set up its own or create its own rating agency. They did that agreement in February, just last month. And now they are looking forward to having their own credit rating agency in June this year. Currently, all lenders are relying on the feedback or the rating by the Moody's, Fitch, and Standard & Poor's. None of those are African. All of them are actually from Europe and the USA. And today, we want to look into the difference that this agency created by Africa will make, the difference it will make here in Africa, notably in addressing concerns by African countries that they are finding it difficult to borrow at minimum costs. And we have here in the studio to talk about this the Financial Economist Stanford Dube, and to help us understand whether we should start celebrating already, knowing that we are counting down to June and have this new credit rating agency by African countries. What's are you excited?
I'm excited, yes, but I think there are quite a number of issues that we need to consider first before we celebrate the move.
Before the excitement gets full-blown?
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's a good move in the right direction. We are hoping that as we grow and develop our own financial systems, we'll be able to fully utilize that rating. But I think as we discussed today, we'll be able to unpack some of the critical issues that we may need to look into first before we celebrate the
Before we get into discussing further that, I want to ask you this.
Yes.
Is the African Union justified? Do you agree with them that they are receiving biasness when they are being rated? And they think it's less than 5 countries which are rated favorably by these Western rating agencies. Do you agree with them?
I do. I think this is a debate that is out there. Many people have actually observed. I think it comes out from a lot of issues. First of all is how we've compartmentalized our economies in the world. We've already said we are first world, second world, third world, and that actually classifies all of us, particularly in the African side, to fall in the region of possibly the third world or developing countries. And that on its own means that we may actually be looked at from one perspective. But at the same time, you say, what is that wrong? Is it completely wrong to actually have that kind of a perspective? You look at how we are contributing to the world GDP. And as Africa, not necessarily as Botswana, but as Africa, 3% of the world GDP. And that takes away our bargaining power in these things. But I think the biggest problem that we have is that we are being painted with the same brush. We're being looked at as from a holistic perspective rather than individually in terms of how we govern ourselves as countries. Yeah.
From your understanding, you are saying that we don't have to celebrate when June comes. Why shouldn't we? We thought somebody will say, look, it's coming. June is here. We'll have our own credit rating agency. Why shouldn't we?
I mean, one of our biggest challenges right now is that who is the funder? Who is interested in actually funding our projects in Africa? You said that they're actually situated in those countries and they would have more faith in more experienced institutions than our African rating agencies. So one would think there should be some kind of collaboration and negotiation first, and maybe they can walk us through. Later on, we can win ourselves and possibly be able to do this thing on our own.
So what you are saying is that if it is funded by the same countries, organizations, or companies that you are trying to run away from, then you have not yet gone any further from them.
It is the right step in the right direction, like I was saying at the beginning. But the biggest challenge you get, like I'm saying, is that the investors, particularly most of them, they come from those developed countries, and they will have more faith in the experienced institutions than the newly formed one. Maybe one would consider, if we have our own African investors, they could possibly start thinking around considering our own African investment credit rating agencies. But in the meantime, we have a lot of dependence in the developed states, and they have faith in their institutions that the ratings that are being given, they are quite actually fair from their perspective.
I want us to get into the latest rating of Botswana.
Yes.
But before that, once we have this, Africa has her own agency.
Yes.
Will it also be able to rate any other country outside Africa?
We should be. If really we are taking international best practices, we should be able to rate them. But the question is, how far are we? How long will it take for us to actually develop to that level? Which I believe that it's a gradual process. Maybe eventually we'll start to realize those results with time.
Okay, let's talk about the drop in the downgrading of Botswana's the BBB plus and A2. Should we be worried?
Not really. I think what is important is for us to possibly consider what caused it, which we believe that we've been discussing these things over the years. Or maybe just before I get into that, it's important for us to know that we are still investment grade. Where we are still okay. We're investment grade. We have potential to actually grow, considering the fact that there's been a lift in the sale of diamonds in India. We believe that very soon, possibly, there will be sale of diamonds, and then we'll improve our revenue. That on its own gives us hope that we may actually go up in our ratings later on. But otherwise, in the meantime, there are quite a number of issues that we possibly led to that. You recall that we have had challenges on our cash flow. We've had challenges with the government investment account. We also have challenges with growing our economy after COVID. We are not growing at the right rate, but we are hoping that with time that will improve. But above all, there is over-dependence on diamond revenue. We possibly need to start improving on the issues around diversification and so on. But above all, we need to also protect the institutions that are responsible for maintaining the rule of law, like we've always been doing over the years.
Let's talk about the forensic audit that the president talked about yesterday.
Yes.
In your understanding, just from what he said yesterday, do you think it will make any impact immediately once it is concluded, or what do you say, give confidence to the market that perhaps something is going to happen that is far much attractive in Botswana?
One of the biggest concerns has always been corruption. And I think what is important about this audit is not necessarily to witch hunt, but to find loopholes within the system so that we can be able to operate a system that is not porous when it comes to issues of money. And that protects the tax monies. Otherwise, if we don't, we'll have a problem. So the objective there is not necessarily to witch hunt, but to try and come up with something that can work going forward. So I have hope that when it concludes, we will be able to come up with policies that are going to build a better financial system within the country to avoid corruption cases growing in that regard. Yeah.
Okay. Would you say that the president has just made too much, huge commitment, 10 billion at the end of the year? Is that even achievable? Given the where we are right now in terms of market appeal to the foreign direct investors?
I think investors, if you look at our ratings, they are not necessarily bad, and the issues that we are supposed to deal with are not necessarily bad as well. These are issues which we can possibly deal with, and we are taking the right steps in the right direction, and we are hopeful that these commitments that the president has made, they will be achieved.
Okay.
What we don't know is when.
Okay. Yeah. Let's conclude on this one. BBB, A2, which one of them is can we harvest much value from quickly?
Well,
long term, short term. One of them is long term. One of them short term.
I think they speak to each other.
Okay.
We are hopeful that as long as because both of them do agree that we are still investment grade, we are not yet rated junk, which gives us hope that whatever steps we are taking now would actually propel us forward or give us better ratings. So we have hope that we are going to possibly get to where we want to get.
All right. Financial Economist Stanford Dube, thank you very much for your time once again. I think going forward, you've now demonstrated that you are capable of being our resident analyst.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to that, yes.
Thank you very much.